Okay. It's
It
on.
wasn't real clear.
Yep, on. As soon as we turn that wall switch on, it's on. You don't have to touch it anymore. So it is on. Do you want the screen down, Jeremy?
Gotta start the meeting first.
The screen, the big screen? You don't want the daylight screen down?
What's that?
Do you want the big movie screen down?
Yeah, why don't you put that one down? Can you do it from
You
here?
gotta turn on the monitor. You haven't turned on the monitor,
You
have
should
you?
know how to do that. Come on. And I'll be looking towards the camera and the view of the person, right?
Yeah. Well,
Not
it's kinda-
connected. Why not?
$4.
Do we have a gavel?
Put it on here.
Hit my thumb or something.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, we can.
Hello, Jeff.
Rick's not good, dude.
So we have Rick and Jeff
Mike.
and Mike.
Yes, sir. Hello, Joe.
George is out of town.
George is out.
Good. Get my vaccine tomorrow.
We- I told him we were going to talk about. George is not here, so we're going to talk about him. Okay, I think everybody's present, and it's.
Chairman Mullins here.
Pardon me?
Is Chairman Mullins here?
Well, I made my reservations today. And,
Jeremy's
so
on.
it's tomorrow.
Says Jeremy Mullins up on the screen,
Yep, there he is.
I'm at, off Providence Drive there.
and Joe is joining us, I think. Joe, are you on?
Get her done.
Jeremy, are you with us?
Says we're muted. You're muted.
Okay, you're muted. All right. Well, go ahead and,
Might have been muted.
I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, as is our tradition. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We shall begin with the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. And I will note that I believe one correction has been made, early this afternoon?
Yep.
So if you have not pulled up the minutes, it had to do with the, I believe who made the motions for them, some of the
Officers.
officers, I guess, yes. So that's been corrected. Other than that, there's been no other changes made, so. Does anybody else have any additions, corrections, deletions for the minutes from the prior meeting? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
This is Rick. So moved.
Rick moves to approve as presented. We hear a second?
Tim, I will second that motion, and just as a reminder, you might want to take a roll call, seems you're missing somebody.
Okay. I have Rick Snodgrass. You,
Here.
and I have Jeff Gross.
Yes, President.
Okay.
Yes.
Mike Clenderis
Present.
and Jeremy Mullins.
President.
Thank you. I think that's it, and myself. And
What
we,
about George Clemens?
George is absent today. He,
No.
pardon
Yeah,
me?
he's out of town. He's not gonna, he did tell us he wasn't gonna be at the meeting today.
And he's not showing up on the view. You're not there, are you, George? I didn't think so. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second for the minutes. Start with a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Rick, yes. Jeff Gross?
Yes.
Mike Clenderis?
Yes, sir.
And Tim Meyer says yes, so it's unanimous, 4. So therefore, that the minutes are approved as presented. Boom. Okay, let's move on. Next thing on the agenda is approval of claims, and I'll let Jeremy walk us through those if you would, please.
Yeah, we have a few claims, Baker Tilly, $5,625, and this is for the expansion of the central TIF and the extremity designated taxpayer agreement. So this is work that they did on that central TIF, majority of it is. American Structure Point, $5,490, is for Buffalo Street, the Plaza project. American Structure Point, $8,480.22 is also for the Buffalo Street Plaza. And then we have 2 for MKM Architecture, one for $9,504.78, and $4,050 is for the ongoing work on the Innovation Center. So that contract was signed middle last year. Blue Shadley, $8,284.50 is for their work in discussions with Warsaw Chemical on their south property. And then Fenn & Brown, $24,736.34 is for is pay up 6 for the 300 North project.
Okay, I will make a comment. I did ask about the American Structure Point invoice. It's dated September 9th, and we did confirm that we have not paid that invoice yet from last year, so it is due and payable. Any questions regarding those claims, please?
Jeremy, has Kedco indicated to you that they've received their money from the other entities besides us?
I think for this contract, we were paying for all of it. The Argonne Road was a split contract, and as far as I know, which has been paid, as far as I know, everyone paid their portion on this. The Innovation Center is our connection with the technology park and creating that incubator slash tech center. That contract was all ours to pay for, so there shouldn't be any shared on this contract.
Okay, well, I was referring to the Kedco, isn't that a split contract?
Not the,
Not
the
the
Argonne
Innovation.
Road was, but not this one. This one was for us. No, I apologize, I may have told you incorrectly. I thought that's what this one was.
No, the Innovation Center is our contract with MKM. They're putting together 2 different possibilities for an Innovation Center, one out at the Technology Park, one in conjunction with some property that's currently owned by Warsaw Chemical.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions about the claims for today? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Mike makes a
This is
motion.
Mike.
Mike makes a motion to approve.
This is Rick, I'll second.
Rick seconds. Okay. I'll now call for a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Yes. Jeff Gross? Did we lose Jeff?
Looks like we did.
Looks like he disconnected. I'll come back to him. Mike?
Yes.
And I say yes. I think we only need 3, so
Yeah.
that's,
If we put
Uh,
it back
so-
on there.
yeah. Give him a chance to reconnect, but we have enough to approve.
Mike, I mean, while we wait to see if Jeff comes back on, do you have any questions on the Innovation Center and that project and what we're looking at?
It's just hard to remember all the details.
I know. Yeah, so as part of when we did the Tech Park recertification, and our goals for the next 4 years, obviously one of our major goals is to get that innovation center up and running. So that's gonna be something we're gonna be working on for the next 4 years pretty strongly. Our contract with MKM, just to get you all back in the swing of it, is we're looking at 2 different possible locations for that innovation center. One would be out at the tech park, and obviously there's some synergy to do that. And then the other would be potentially on Argonne Road as part of a revitalization of some of buildings that Warsaw Chemical owns, depending on what their future looks like in terms of their location and a need for space and expansion and production. So we're looking at 2 different options, and we'll continue to do that over the next few months to see what those potentials look like, and then we'll be communicating with our various partners on those projects on the feasibility of them and so forth. So that's what that MKM architecture contract's really doing, is they're looking at the space requirements, space needs in 2 different locations with potentially different partners, and identifying that square footage and estimated costs to do those projects.
Thank you, Jeremy. Looks like Jeff's back.
Yeah, Jeff, you reconnected with us now?
Yes, President.
Okay. I held this, the claims open yet for your vote to approve as presented. How do you vote?
Jeff Rose, I do approve.
Okay, thank you. So it is unanimous, and again, the motion carries as approving the claims as presented. Okay, move on to the change order presented by Fenton Brown to the city.
Yeah, so this is the final change order for the 300 North project. It's in the amount of $3,538.50. And it's probably a little confusing because the exhibits they have here are showing you what new items were added that they didn't not have in the contract that we had to add to make some adjustments. And then the remainder of the change orders and actual quantity, final quantities. So if you look at the very last page of this change order, you'll have down at the bottom, you have change order 1, which was a net 0 increase, and then change order number 2, it has all of the quantities for change order number 2, including any new items that were added, which is the seating, the removal of light pole, installation of additional light pole, and then a liquid asphalt credit. And then you have the overall item adjustments. Those are all the adjustments for the actual materials in place. And then you have adjustments to line items. which amount to the $13,538.50 increase.
Okay. Yeah, that was a little bit confusing there, because exhibits A, B, and C, two of those are negative, or credits, right?
Yeah, and it's because those line items are not actually in the contract, so the exhibits are adding those line items into the contract. We did not have a mulch seeding in the contract, so that was a new item that was added as a new pay item. The existing pay item we did have was the nursery sodding, which was a credit, but then you see the line item for the additional. And then there was two different pole issues. There was a couple of location of poles, and then we had left some poles out that we had purchased as part of the first phase of 300 North, but because of the utility poles and the bridge work that needed to be done, those lights did not get placed. So we added the placement of those lights to this contract. So that was another change order. The largest shift in quantities was actually associated with some lane markings that were missed in the contract. I think the contract had, I think there was one or two or three different lane markings when it actually ended up being substantially more than that. So there was some arrows, turn arrows that needed to be added to the contract. So that was the bulk of the change order.
Okay.
Jeremy, Rick, the
Mhm.
material on that does not add up to that 13,538.50.
No, because, and that's what I was trying to explain to Tim earlier. So you have the exhibits. The exhibits A, B, and C are actually referencing new line items that were added to the contract because that work was not in the contract. So to think of that as work that was added to the contract, but did not have a line item in the contract. The remaining part of this change order is actually the quantity adjustments for the entire contract. So this contract was bid as a line item contract, so if we say per the bid that they're gonna use 300 yards of topsoil, at the end of the contract, we adjust for any quantity adjustments based on the per unit bid for the contract. So if they place 310 yards of topsoil, they get paid for 310 even though the contract had estimated 300. So the additional change order that you see here has all those quantity adjustments for the final price. And that quantity adjustment on the very last sheet will show you all those changes. And there's a $14,210 adjustment that includes the overall item adjustment. Those are adjustments for all of the different line items. Does that make sense?
All I'm saying is in the material I've got change order number 2,
Mm-hmm.
A and B.
You should have A, B, and C. Yeah, I had the same question, Rick. The exhibits A, B, and C do not add up to the 13,000.
I don't have exhibit C.
Did you see that one set?
A and
Yeah, it
B.
was in
Do you
there.
have the quantity sheets, which would be exhibit D?
They look like a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's a big spreadsheet.
And if you go to the last page on that spreadsheet, dated January 26th, they do have the itemized line items that add up to the 13,538. It's very small print. It's very, very,
Yeah.
I had to blow it up about 3 times to be able to read the numbers.
I did go through the contract, and I also talked to James, who reviewed this change order. and prepared and signed off on his recommendation. So I called him before as well, just to make sure that I was looking at it right. And he said, yes, he did look at all the quantities, and he is comfortable if this change order is correct. I don't have a, he said he was going to, he would put it in a spreadsheet that might be a little easier to read, and I can send that out to you once he sends it to me.
Yeah, the hard part off of that sheet is the $14,000 adjustment does not refer to, doesn't tell us which lines he's adjusting, and that.
It does, it's just really confusing. It's not,
It's buried in there, right?
it is, I mean, it's, if you look at this, you'll see this, the green marker off on the side, which is
Yeah.
really what the quantity changes, the majority of the quantity changes are. And if you went through, there's two lines in this or in the spreadsheet, the contract amount and to date amount. If you went through and added all of those up, that's where you would get the quantity change. And the thing is, some of them, most of them are zero, which means that the quantity estimates were right on. But you'll see, like, there might be $1,000 difference, $200 difference, $297 difference. There's a $149 difference, and these are just those quantity. Some of it's actual in-place concrete, so you estimate 334 yards, while they ended up 335.66 yards. Because this is a unit price contract, we're paying per unit price per quantities in place. This is not a lump sum contract. A lump sum contract would say, you know, we're gonna do everything, and it's a lump sum of $3 million. And then any changes to that contract, you would have to prove. This is a line item contract, a price per unit. So it says, here's the quantity estimates, here's the price per unit, and that's where you get your base bid. But we're paying unit prices, so when they're under on those units, we pay less. When they're over on those units, we pay more. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah, it
Makes confusing.
It is, I understand. I wish their spreadsheet was a little less confusing, and like I said, James was gonna put it in a spread, I haven't got it yet. When I get it, I'll send it out to you. It'll be a little bit easier to understand.
yeah, this one, I mean, you could do the math, but you'd have to go through both pages of this thing and look at the dollar amount, what it was, the amount to date, as you said, and then the corrected amount, or correct amount, and take the difference and add them up. That's why you got spreadsheets.
Well, and
They should
I will
show
say,
that.
I mean, keep in mind, this was a $1.8 million contract. We
Yeah.
only ended up in a change order of $13,538, so, and I'm one that tries to hold the line as much as possible, as I'm sure you're all aware. And we really did, I mean, we didn't really add anything to this project. I think our quantities were really pretty, I mean, from an engineering standpoint, when you're talking about estimating, you know, square yards of concrete, square yards of asphalt, I mean, to come down to $1.8 million project and only have a little over $13,000 in difference in quantity, it's pretty.
Oh, I
Pretty
agree,
decent.
I agree with that. It's just about, you know, how you present it to,
Try to understand it, yeah.
to your customer.
Yeah.
That, you know, this is, you know, here's the amount, the difference from the original contract to the new contract, and, you know, and the information's in here, it's just very poorly presented, I think, but, go through the math, it does check out, and pick a few lines and check it out, it does come out.
Yeah.
But, it's very hard to follow, especially when they lump things together like the 14,000. You gotta go back and check all those out. So
Yeah,
anyhow,
I think they were just trying to make it a little bit easier, because otherwise you could, I mean, they could have had 50-some different line items and changes on here.
understand that, and, you know, you highlight that and make it a certain color and
Yeah.
make it visible to, you know, 14,000 amounts of these items, these line items up above, that type of thing. So anyhow, I would ask them for a little better presentation and better detail on the change orders, if they could.
Yeah, James is, like I said, he is gonna put it in a spreadsheet that's a little easier to understand. I'll send that out to you.
Okay.
And the good news is, it was, like I said, almost a just under $1.9 million contract, and we had less than a percentage.
Yeah.
in-
I agree,
in
that,
change,
that's
so.
pretty darn accurate for that size of a contract.
I mean, Troyer did quantity estimates, we really didn't run into any big hurdles. I think our the big change was there was some lane markings that were missed, just quantities of them were missed, and then, we had to move some lights. There were some issues with the utility poles and moving some of those lights, that RMC was great to work with over the last few years as we did phase 1 and phase 2, but it just takes time. It took time for them because of the wetlands issue to move their poles, and so we left a couple of lights out of the first contract. We added them back in, and there was 2 lights that we had to move to make some adjustments from some exterior issues, some power line issues. So those two light poles being moved added a little bit to the contract.
Not too bad to come out with, like, I think it says down there, 7.72% adjustment.
Yeah, less than 1%.
Uh,
I won't
yeah.
complain about that.
No, that's pretty darn good. Any other questions from the group? I can see Mike's lips
Besides
moving.
that, I was interested in the lights and the paint. Looks like the lane was there, but they didn't include the paint. Is that right, Jeremy? Or did they add asphalt to make a passing lane and then paint too?
Now, so what happened, the way I understand it was, Troyer put in the contract what they thought were the lane markings, and this contract is kind of built like an NDOT contract. So when we do NDOT contracts, they do everything per line item, and the line item that they had in there was not the line item for turn arrow markers. And then when you factor in all of the roundabout markers, so the way they were described in the contract was not the way they should have been described. So they basically made an error in how they had them labeled in the contract. So the quantities did not come out right. So when they say, oh, should have had 3 we needed like 15 turn arrows. And so we ended up being short on that and had to add that, and that was the big change. And each one of those is like $800 some for those thermoplastic lane markers, so they're not cheap. They're pre-formed markers, and over the years, I mean, obviously, I don't know if you know the difference between, there's paint, obviously is cheap, but paint you gotta do every year, it wears off in no time. And then you have thermoplastic and epoxy. A lot of them are going to epoxy, but over the years, whether we use thermoplastic or epoxy, on new projects, we use one of the two. And those are more expensive, but they're etched into the asphalt, so they're embedded into the asphalt, and if they're done right and put down at the right time of the year, they last years. You're not repainting them every year.
So it's really cheaper.
Yeah. Oh yeah, from a maintenance standpoint, and obviously the street department, we prefer epoxy or thermoplastic. So most of our contracts that we do will have epoxy or thermoplastic. Epoxy is kind of the new product out there. When we did Husky Trail, that was an etched epoxy. It's a little bit more expensive because you actually come in and you mill out and then place the epoxy into the etching. Thermoplastic's a little bit cheaper, and it has about the same. It lasts a little less longer than epoxy, but it's a little cheaper, easier to place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Boy, you learn a lot in these things. You have to deal with these. Any other questions? Good discussion so far.
So do you need an approval of the change orders, Jeremy?
Yeah, you approved change order number 2, and then, this contract will pretty much be done.
All righty. Is there any other?
I would make a motion to approve the change order, if that's what you need.
Yep, absolutely. So Mike makes a motion to approve as presented, correct?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
This is Rick, I'll second.
Okay. Rick seconds the motion. Okay, I'll have a roll call vote then. Rick Snodgrass?
Yes?
Yes. Jeff Gross?
Yes.
Yes. Mike Londeris?
Yes.
And Tim Meyer, yes. So again, the motion carries unanimously, and the change order number 2 is approved as presented. Thank you very much for the explanations. I appreciate it very much. Is there any new business to come before the group here?
So it's almost that time of year again, so the next month, next 2 months, I will be working on the annual report that has to be submitted to you and to the council. Typically during this time frame, I'll also send out notifications, and later in the year, we have a requirement to notify all the taxing agencies and hold a public meeting. I'll prepare everything. I'll probably send it out to the taxing agencies. I don't know whether we hold a virtual public meeting and we invite everybody by virtual, or if we wait a few months to see what happens with the vaccination. I haven't decided yet, but come March and April, you will be receiving a draft and then a final report for last year's redevelopment expenditures.
Very good. So you're gonna be busy for a while.
I'm gonna be busy. Yeah, it takes
On
a
top of
while.
all your other.
We also have your bonds that you need to sign. So as you have time, if you can schedule time with Kim to come in and sign those bonds, and Rick we'll get with you, Rick, on getting your bond signed.
Coming along.
Okay.
Yeah, Kim already has.
Excellent. She's on top of it.
Very good. Anything else?
So I need
Mike?
to come in and go upstairs and sign that?
Yes.
Okay.
Just have no
Something's
moment.
happened to the video, or everyone's frozen.
Yeah, I think your computer locked up.
I think it's yours.
I think you're frozen.
The others are still.
We can still hear you, so that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay, because everything's frozen on my screen, okay.
Okay. Anything new on Winona PVD? Anything there that the group should know about?
There's a couple of people looking at the equipment. Nothing.
Still ongoing,
Yeah.
nothing new.
Nothing new, but I think the time is running out, I should say. Obviously, the bank's taking ownership of that equipment, and at some point, they're gonna auction it off. I mean, I think they're trying to privately place it now, but if that doesn't work, at some point, there's gonna be an auction.
An auction, piecemeal it.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't come to that.
I hope not either, but we'll continue to work with those who have possibilities, and we'll see what happens.
Very good. And do you want to discuss the Warsaw Chemical building and tour and stuff?
We
Is it premature to
a
say?
little premature. I mean, we're still working with them. I think we were trying to get a deal done by the end of last year. That didn't happen. They talked about coming back in the first quarter of this year, so we'll see. I reached out to them a week or so ago, and they did not reply back to me. So we'll keep working on it. Like I said, there's still a couple of different possibilities on what that innovation center looks like and where it goes, and we're just exploring all of our options, and hopefully we'll come up with a great plan and a great location with some great partners, and it'll all work out. Just don't know what that's going to be yet.
We're hopeful.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else? I don't know, Joe still with us, I guess?
I think he took off. The plazas, they're still working on the plaza. There's still a couple of products we'll be waiting on. Supposed to be done, I think, May, so.
We hope so.
Yeah, I mean, there's still 2 products that we're waiting on. Hopefully they come in on time. There's no guarantee, obviously, but with
So-
COVID, there's just been a lot of disruption to a lot of different products.
Yeah, materials in particular.
Materials, and we got hit pretty hard on this project. It seemed like every time we turned around, some material was being held up. We tried to find alternatives, and unfortunately, most of the alternatives didn't meet the specs that we needed. So, and it would cost us more to re-engineer everything and than it's worth not waiting for. So we're just kind of waiting in line, so to speak, to receive those products.
So the hope is to have it functional by the summer.
That would be ideal, yeah. Hopefully when the sun starts shining, everything will be ready to go.
Again, we hope so.
I hope so.
Some things are outside our control as well.
Yes, some of those products, I mean, there's nothing we can do. I mean, we looked at 3 different alternatives, but they didn't have the same specs, and then you're re-engineering the substructure. It wasn't worth going down that road, and there's no guarantee that we would be able to get those products either, so it's kind of, we're playing the waiting game. The end product will be well worth the wait, but obviously it's a little frustrating.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else before we adjourn this meeting? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Rick, I so moved.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Aye. We are adjourned, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Kim, for putting all this stuff together. Yes?
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
We are adjourned.